Students in Maine and around the country are worried about the rising cost of college. What would you do to make college affordable?
Well, it's one of the greatest issues, and I think one of the things we have to seriously look at, and I would strongly support, is a national service program. Anyone who wanted to go through college, etc., and then dedicate their lives to some sort of public service, whether it be teaching, whether it be working in a district attorney's office, something like that, where they're giving back to the community. I think we ought to have the ability to say to them, okay, your college education is for free. Mm-hmm. We did it years ago with the GI Bill. We said if you serve in the military, the federal government will pay your college education. You notice on the advertisements they don't say that anymore. They say we'll give you a whole lot of money for education. And the reality is they don't pay what they used to for education. I always give this one example. I grew up in the town of Kittery, where my father was a shipyard worker. And I have 3 older brothers, and they sent all 4 of us to college. And not one of us was nice enough to choose Maine's wonderful university system. Mm-hmm. We all chose the most expensive places we could think of. And my parents put those 4 kids through college, sometimes 2 at a time, on a shipyard worker's salary. The day I graduated from college, I went to Bowdoin College here in Maine. I think my father was making $28,000 a year on the shipyard. A year at a private college cost $7,000 a year. A year at a public college cost $2,500 that year. Mm-hmm. Today, the person who holds my father's job earns about $55,000 a year. A year at a private college is $50,000 a year, and the university system can be upwards of $20,000 a year now. That's what we've seen in this country in the last 30 years, a slow nickel and diming of the American middle class. We've got to reverse that so the next generation can afford a better opportunity for the following generation.
Do you believe that the No Child Left Behind initiative is a beneficial act, or do you believe it leaves every child behind?
I have 2 words for No Child Left Behind, and that's repeal it. Okay. It's one of the worst laws I've seen that's directed at education. Not that I disagree with standardized testing and doing some form of standardized testing, but No Child Left Behind was created in one of the states that had one of the worst problems in education, Texas. Maine actually does very well in public education. We have a very strong public education system in our state. And I happen to have a daughter who's in the 1st grade, and I can remember talking to teachers who would say, well, I actually have to get a substitute teacher in to teach my class so I can finish the paperwork for No Child Left Behind. Mm-hmm. That's how ridiculous it's become. We need to repeal it, allow teachers to have more creativity in their classroom, yet still focused on results.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Over 47 million Americans are living without health care insurance. What would be your plan? Would you support universal health care?
Yeah, I would not only support universal health care, I would just support a national health care system. And I'm not afraid of supporting a single-payer health care system. We need to sit down and look at what every other single industrialized country does in the world and fashion a truly unique American system that covers everybody, that's nationally based, and I think a single-payer system would do that very effectively. People talk about universal health care coverage, and even Republicans now are talking about universal health care coverage, but universal health care coverage is different than a single-payer health care system. You can have universal coverage with everybody forced to buy private insurance. That way everybody would have universal coverage, but it would mean one of the more inefficient systems in this country. I believe we need a system that cuts down on the overhead in our health insurance system, that covers everybody, and that is run by a not-for-profit. In other words, we don't have, in the healthcare decision, we don't have profit-making companies who need to make a 10 or 15% profit over whether you go to a doctor or where you go to see a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Gas prices are on the rise. It's nearing $4 a gallon now. Would you support initiatives to increase energy alternatives?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to do 2 things in this country, and we've got to have a dramatic change in the direction we're headed with our energy policy. And it's one of the things I mentioned at the start, that I think unless we make some key decisions in the next 2 to 4 years, we're going to face dramatic consequences for our nation. First of all, we've got to move away from carbon-based fuels, and we've got to move away pretty dramatically. I'm talking about, going solar, wind power, hydropower, all types of energy that don't rely on a carbon base to do that. And we have an incredible way or vehicle to accomplish that with in our country. We have our tax code, which we can give incentives to people to install solar panels, to utilize wind power or hydropower. Those are ways in which we can, drive our market economy in the right direction. In Germany, I think they're already up to 25% solar power in their country. We're at 2%. We're at only 2%. And that's had a dramatic effect of having us very carbon-based. That's the first thing we've got to do. The second thing we've got to do is conserve energy. And that means accomplishing what we currently do with consuming less energy. Okay. Everything from individuals installing, the circular light bulbs, to looking at ways to design homes, new home construction, so that they take the greatest advantage of passive solar.
Okay. How important is this 2008 election to Maine and to the nation?
It's extremely important. As I said at the beginning, this is going to be an election that will either shape the direction of this country in a positive direction, or if it does not, we will end up in a very, very dire situation in a very few years.
What is your campaign doing to involve the youth involved in the process?
Well, we've done a lot of outreach. We have a great website. We're doing a lot of communication to youth. I've spoken to a number of school systems, just getting out and getting involved. I've been very active over the years in whatever office I served in to bring young people in to experience the process. When I was in the state Senate, we developed a program called the Shadow Senator Program, where we'd have senators select one student from each of their high school within their districts to actually come up and shadow them and do everything they did during the day. If they had to meet with the governor or meet with whoever, they followed right along. And afterwards they had to write a report on some aspect of the political system. As a district attorney, we've had a program called DA for a Day, where we've done a similar thing. Bring in people interested in criminal justice and let them see how the process works, how decisions are made. That, to me, is critical in having people understand, the next generation understand how our system relies on citizenship so much to function, how it relies on individual involvement, and how much one individual or a small group of individuals can actually change the direction and the course of our state, of our communities, of our nation.
Can you tell us who you support for president?
Well, I've told both of them, unless they want to endorse me, I can't endorse them.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I think both of them would be excellent candidates. Both Democrats would be excellent candidates. And I haven't endorsed anybody and don't expect to.
Okay.
I think both of them are wonderful candidates. And, once we've chosen the candidate, I'm prepared to get behind either one of them to win this election, because I think it's so critical.
Do you believe that change is more important in this election or experience?
I think people want to see a change in the direction in this country. Okay. I think people are very dissatisfied with what they see coming out of Washington. They see on both the Democratic side and the Republican side, they see leadership that's too tied in with special interests, too tied in with lobbyists, that's not listening to the general public and what they want. So whoever it is, whether it's somebody experienced or inexperienced, I think they have to focus in on bringing about the change that people want, and that's taking the voices of the people in Maine or wherever and making them heard in Washington and incorporating them in public policy.
Wrapping up our time together, what would you tell a voter, a Maine voter, to earn their vote on June 10th?
Well, I think if you do want change, if you want somebody who's going to be able to go down to Washington and challenge the status quo and fight to improve our economy, fight to change our healthcare system, fight to end this tragic foreign policy decision we have made in Iraq, then I'm the type of person who can do that. I've done it in the Maine legislature. As district attorney, I've brought in many innovative changes. And I think as a district attorney, I bring one of the unique perspectives in running for this office. We've seen dramatic changes in this country that have affected constitutional rights. And we have seen people who have put individual politics above the rule of law. I think we have to restore that and restore the integrity of our system.
Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
And thank you for watching as well. I'm Justin Chenette for The Issue. Remember to keep it tuned to TA TV for non-stop 2008 election coverage. See you next time.